Shalom, shalom. This is Rabbi Kefa. Welcome to another edition of In the Lion's Den. It's been a while. The lion has been, I guess you could say, hibernating for a while. Baruch Hashem Yahweh. My guest today is the Hakohen, Rabbi Simon Altaf, our Nasai, our leader here at Forever Israel. Welcome, Rabbi Simon Altaf, the Kohen.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here again.
Yes,
and I think we have some interesting topics here in San Antonio, Texas.
Yes,
that we want to bring to the people. I think that's very relevant and very important for this time and this age that we're in. So, our first topic that we're going to discuss today on this side is dealing with Torah versus traditions.
Right. Yes.
So, what do you have to say about Torah and traditions, Hakohen?
Well, a lot can be said about Torah and tradition. Today, what we are finding, our people are in the nations. They're spread out across the world, not just in Israel, but every country of the world. We have our people there, and what I'm seeing is that our people are focusing on the traditions, and the Torah is put on the back burner. So that's why I thought that it is a relevant subject. This is now Sukkot, Feast of Tabernacles.
Yeah,
we just entered that a day ago.
Indeed.
So the question now is that when it comes to Torah and tradition, how do we decide what we follow? Who decides Torah today? Because you have every church or every synagogue out there. They have their version of what God's law is.
Right.
So we need to decide that.
And I think that's the bigger question. What you're saying, Hakohen, is actually what is right.
Yes.
What's right? What's factual?
Who decides?
Who decides what's right and what's factual? So I think that's very important for us to understand going forward, is that we get what's right. Not only what's right, because the Christians will tell you they have what's right.
Yes.
The Baptists will tell you they have what. The Muslims will tell you they have what's right.
Right. So the question, $1 million question is, one, whose Torah are you going to follow, or whose tradition?
Right.
Because if you go from one synagogue to the next, Ashkenazi, Sephardi, maybe Middle Eastern, or some other synagogue, you find each synagogue will have its own tradition of Torah, a version of Torah. But 9 times out of 10, you're not going to find Torah there. What you're going to find, you may find the scroll there in the Aron Kodesh, in the box.
Right.
But you're not going to find Torah, because what you're going to find is Talmudic traditions, and you're going to find Mishnaic traditions, and what Rambam said, and what Ramban said.
Right.
That's what you're going to find.
Right. And it's unfortunate, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's unfortunate that a lot of people, right, when they see Torah today in 2017, yes, everybody, Christians world over, everybody has a Bible in their home. But when you examine the first 5 books of Moses, what you find is that everybody can read the Torah, the first 5 books, but not many people understand. And that's why they look to Rambam for understanding. They look to Chumash and Mishnah for understanding, because they can't understand what the Torah is saying. When Torah tells you to keep the Sabbath, Torah doesn't tell you how to keep the Sabbath. So they go to all these other commentators and quote-unquote sages to understand how to actually perform Torah in 2017.
That's true, because let me give you a simple example. And you can see how wrong the people are out there with that. One simple example. Today, the Jewish people, those that call themselves Jews, they start their day from sunset. Well, the Torah doesn't start at sunset. The Torah day starts at sunrise. And for that, one can easily go into the books of the Torah, the first 5 books, and you can read that God told Israelites to go collect manna before sunrise, not at sunset. So therefore, the example is right there that our original day, ancient day, was sunrise. So when did the sunset day start? A lot of people don't even know that. So they follow a sunset day as some kind of a holy grail, when our days start. But that's totally opposite what the Torah commands us. So instead of following a sunrise model, they follow a sunset model. Then we have 50 million calendars out there.
Yeah.
Which calendar do we follow for festivals?
Right.
Nobody seems to have a consensus on that.
Right.
So then you have what do you do on the Sabbath?
Yeah.
Do you stand at sunset at night and you do the
candle lighting?
Kiddush?
Yeah.
and due to the finishing of the Sabbath at the end of it. So, there's so many of these things going on, yet not a single one is mentioned in the Torah. Does the Torah mention we need to stand at the onset of the Sabbath? Let's just say for a second, let's hypothetically say that it was sunset as most people believe today. So, does the Torah then command us that on the seventh day is the Sabbath and you're supposed to light some candles? Well, there was no candles in those days.
Yeah.
We are oil lamps. Or does the Torah say light oil lamps?
I don't see it.
It doesn't say that either.
I don't see it.
So what we are finding out there is you first of all have to deal with traditions. Then you have to deal with customs, that have been brought by what we call minha rabban, rabbinic customs.
Yes.
The rabbis have proposed those customs. And let's not even talk about, the days, because that's another issue that people don't have, most people are clueless about that. So therefore, we don't even want to discuss that, because if somebody's decided the day is sunset, then let them go do their sunset day.
Right.
Now, what about the rest of the other 50 million traditions that they want to follow?
Right.
Then if you didn't do my tradition, you're going to hell.
Right.
If I didn't do your tradition, I'm going to hell.
Right.
What do we do with that?
Right.
What does Yahweh say about that?
Exactly. And I think that's the point that we need to get to.
Yeah.
When we examine Torah, we understand Torah is God's voice. So in 2017, how many folks have heard from God? Directly. That's the question. So where is God's voice? I think this is an important question. Who has God's voice? And where is God's voice today, 2017, going forward?
Yes, right.
That's a very important question.
That's a very important question, and that will decide your eternal future.
Indeed.
Not just, not just which church you attend,
Right.
which synagogue you decide to go. It's your eternity, your children's eternity,
Indeed.
Probably your grandchildren's eternity.
Indeed. So these are very important questions. So the question is, are you going to run with God's voice, or are you going to run with what man said, with customs and traditions? Now, I did something very interesting today with looking up some information from the KJV, King James Version. I actually looked up the word custom. Custom is only used one time in our Torah, and it's in relation to when you're on your monthly flow. That was the relation. That was the context in the Torah. And I also looked up traditions. Nowhere in the whole of the Tanakh is the word tradition even used. It's first used in the book of Matthew.
Right. So
the New Testament.
Nowhere in the Old Testament you find that word ever mentioned.
Yeah. So if we're on our scale, if we have custom and traditions weighed high here, and then we have Torah here, then our scales are off balance.
Well, we run into several problems, because a lot of the families, they will run into problems with marital relationships based on custom and traditions. So maybe the husband might say, I'm going to follow Torah. And maybe the wife will say, I'm going to follow tradition. So who wins the battle?
Who's right?
Who's right and who's wrong?
Right.
Or maybe it's the other way around. The wife says, I'm going to follow Torah, and the husband says, I'm going to follow tradition.
Right.
Who do you listen to?
Right.
These are very important questions of our time.
Right.
That we need to ask.
So my question to you, Hakohen, Rabbi Simon Altaf, is where do you go to get God's voice today in 2017?
Well, we have to pick up our Bible, any Bible that you have. I mean, we have here the Hidden Truths, Hebraic Scrolls, and we have to just go and read. What are we told by? Let's see God according to God.
Yes, absolutely.
Why should we go man according to man or according to somebody else?
Right.
So I think that what's relevant here is that for instance, let me read one verse here, which is kind of very interesting. It says, "And it shall come to pass, when he hears the word of this curse, that he speaks blessing for himself in his heart, saying, I shall have shalom, though I keep my halakha, my commandments, with a rebellious heart, the withered ground with the parched." So it says in Deuteronomy 29:18 and follows in 20, Yahweh will not be willing to forgive him, but then the anger of Yahweh and his jealousy shall arouse against that man, and all the curses that are written in this book shall lie upon him, and Yahweh shall blot out his name from under Shemaim. So according to Christianity, Yahweh can forgive everything and everybody. According to Christianity.
Yeah.
According to Torah, Yahweh will not forgive the man. It doesn't mention a woman, by the way. No woman's voice is mentioned here that listen to the woman. It says the man, if he's rebellious and he thinks he's right, yet he has a rebellious heart, he will not be forgiven. So then the question is, who is the authority in the house? The Torah says the man is.
My goodness.
Right, number one.
Yes.
Then when we read Moses' last voice before he was about to be passed to eternity, he gave certain blessings to Israel and different tribes of Israel, and he starts speaking about different children of Israel and what they are to be and what they are not to be. And so here we see, if we follow this line in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 33, the 5th book, in verses 8, and it says, and of Levi he said, let your Thummim and your Urim be with your favored one, whom you did prove at Massah, and with whom you did strive at the mine of Meribah, who said to his father and to his mother, I have not seen him, neither did he acknowledge his brethren, nor knew his own children, for they have observed your word and kept your covenant. So the only people that in the whole Bible that you find that are pointed out time and time again are the Levites that have kept your word and observed your commandments, your covenant. So then it goes on, it says, they shall teach Yaakov your judgments.
Wow.
Yaakov is Israel, by the way.
Indeed.
They shall teach Yaakov your judgments.
My goodness.
In other words, your ordinance, your commandments.
Indeed.
So who are the teachers that he's supposed to go to?
The Levites.
The Levites.
The Levites.
And the Kohanim come out of the Levites.
Indeed.
So therefore, the answer is right there in the books.
Indeed.
If we are willing to obey the answer.
Right.
So you are to seek a Levite if you're not sure, if there's a controversy in the gate in your city, you're not sure what to do, that's the man you're supposed to find out.
Right.
And then, unless you have a competent rabbi, you can't find a Levite. You have a competent rabbi, he knows the answer.
Right.
Then he's supposed to answer that question. But I can tell you that 9 times out of 10, the rabbi is going to point you to traditions,
right.
not to a Torah commandment.
Right.
They're not going to tell you, don't do the kiddush because that's a tradition. They're going to say, do the kiddush, do the tradition.
Yeah, it makes it makes Hashem very proud.
Yeah.
Well, you don't get any brownie points, or like what you say, you don't get any. What's the word you like to use? You don't get brownie points.
You don't get brownie points
for doing these extra things that are not required.
Because what you're doing is if you really look at it, you're adding to
Indeed.
a commandment.
Indeed.
And we have no commandment in any of the entire Bible, the Hebrew Bible, translated into English or any other language.
Yeah.
We have no commandment that says I'm to stand on a Friday sunset and light my candles or light my lamp.
Yeah.
I don't see that, and if I don't see that, maybe I'm missing something.
Right. Well, yeah, you coined it that golden ticket. You called it a golden ticket.
Right.
You can't do all these other things and expect to get golden tickets from the God of Israel because you're doing things that are not required.
Right.
And a Hakohen, he's a Kohen. That's why I like to keep saying that. The Kohen, he's the Kohen in the gate. You have our information on this video. You need to contact him via email and get your questions answered. Get the facts to the questions that need to be answered when it comes to Torah, because these are the men with the voice of God.
Right.
The voice of God is Torah. So who has God's voice today in 2017 going forward? That's what's important. We understand right from our Torah that it's the Kohanim.
Correct. So the $1 million question that we are trying to answer is who has the answer not according to me,
right. Not
according to you, but according to the God of Israel,
right.
Yahweh himself.
Right.
Well, according to him, it's the Levites.
Right.
They have the answer.
They have the answer.
So if you are getting mixed answers from different rabbis, which you're likely to get,
Indeed.
One rabbi has one tradition, another has another tradition, then you need to seek a Kohen. Because if the Kohen guides you wrong, if a Levite guides you wrong, then the sin is upon him. Right. He has to answer for that sin.
So because he's been put in a place to be the teachers, right?
Because he is in the place of a teacher.
Right. He is the teacher
for all time.
Exactly.
For eternity.
Exactly.
And not just for a season.
Right.
Forever.
Right.
So then if and as you know that Christianity, what did Christianity do? Remove the Kohanim, remove the Levites.
Totally.
They don't exist any longer. They're erased.
Erased.
And what does Judaism do today?
Erase them.
They're not even, at least some rabbis understand the importance of the Kohanim,
right.
But you find that mostly they're relegated to the backseat somewhere.
Exactly.
So that's basically, because if the Kohen really spoke, if Israel today has Kohanim, why didn't they speak about the traditions that the Judaism is carrying out today?
Right.
Let me give you one example of a tradition that Judaism is carrying out that is actually idolatrous. Let me take it from Ezekiel the prophet, who was another Kohen, and it says as follows in Ezekiel chapters 20 verse 29. Let me give you the context first so we don't get the context wrong.
Okay.
And it came to pass in the 7th year, in the 5th month, the 10th day of the month, that certain of the elders of Israel came to inquire of Yahweh and sat before me. Then came the word of Yahweh to me, saying, Son of man, speak to the elders of Israel and say to them, Thus says Master Yahweh, are you come to inquire of me? As I live, says Master Yahweh, I will not be inquired by you. Will you judge them, son of man? Will you judge them, cause them to know the idolatrous acts of the Avot, the fathers?
Yeah.
So these are not ordinary Joe Jimmy on the street.
Right.
These are the elders of Israel.
Right.
From the different tribes have come to make an inquiry, but they're in idolatrous ways. So Yahweh says that I will not be inquired by them. And who did they come to?
They come to the.
Did they go to the rabbi in the local synagogue, or did they go to the Kohen?
They went to the Kohen.
They went to the Kohen, who was a prophet at the time as well.
Indeed.
A Levite.
Right.
Therefore, they are following the order of the Torah, but the Kohen, what does a Kohen do? He inquires from the God of Israel directly.
Right.
Yahweh tell me what I should tell these guys.
Right.
And he tells them, you will not give them an answer because he is Yahweh's voice.
Indeed.
Ezekiel is refusing to give an answer to them because Yahweh has told him no answer for these guys. They're idolatrous. And then when we read this, when I was talking about the synagogues doing this idolatrous practice,
yes.
The Bama. The Bama is basically a place where you raise up the platform. You see it in churches as well. What do you call the pulpit? I believe.
Yes.
And then you have the synagogues. You have this raised place where 3 rabbis on this side, 3 on this side, 1 in the middle, and this. Oh, that looks like a menorah.
Yeah.
They like to make up fancy things.
Right.
But what does the Tanakh, the prophet, say? The Levite. Here's what the Levite says. And this is Yahweh's voice now. Then I said to them, in verse 29, then I said to them, what is the high place whereunto you go? And the name there is called Bama to this day. Therefore, and this day 2017 too.
Still called.
Baruch Hashem Yahweh.
Indeed.
Right?
Hashem Yahweh.
And then he says, therefore say to the house of Israel, thus says Master Yahweh, are you ritually impure after the way of your Avot, your fathers, and you commit whoring after the idolatrous ways?
My goodness.
That practice that is in the synagogues today is considered an idolatrous practice in the Tanakh, in the Torah.
My goodness.
And yet today it's seen as kosher.
Indeed.
Because the rabbi said this is kosher.
And everybody's doing it.
And everybody's doing it.
My goodness.
So that is what I mean by twisting the Torah and making something to be it is not. Many of the practices today that you find in synagogues are high practices, what we call idolatrous pagan practices.
Indeed.
Practices that probably our people learned in their, being in the nations,
right.
In exile. And so they brought those practices back, probably to Israel, those that returned, and those that are in the nation still practicing those things, and they are forbidden practices. And this is just one example. We're talking about one example.
One example.
And there are many examples like that.
Right.
So the question is, who do you listen to? So this is Yahweh according to Yahweh.
Indeed.
And then the prophet doesn't dare say, let me answer them. He inquires before Yahweh, before he answers them. And what Yahweh's answer is very clear, that I will not be inquired by these people. And then what does the prophet say after that? He says, and then Yahweh says, say to them, thus says Master Yahweh, in the day when I chose Israel and lifted up my hand to the seed of house of Jacob, lifted up his hand, Yahweh swore by his own name. He says, I swore by my own name to the house of Jacob, and made myself known to them in the land of Mitzrayim, to Jacob's family. And then he said, when I lifted up my hand to them, saying, I am Yahweh, or Yehovah, however you pronounce it. I am Yehovah, your power, in the day that I lifted up my hand to them to bring them forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, into a land that I had searched out for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is a glory of all lands. Then said I to them, cast away every man the idolatries of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Mitzrayim. I am Yahweh, your power.
My goodness.
But they rebelled against me.
Baruch Hashem Yahweh.
Are we seeing this rebellion today?
Rebels are in the midst.
We're still on.
Rebels are in the midst. So if you want to clean yourself up, you want to start cleaning up and getting the process right, you must go through the Kohen. That's very important for all of you Israel. You may call yourself native Hebrew, Israelite, Jew, I don't care what you call yourself. But if you call yourself a Torah follower, then we need to follow the Torah, not just with lip service, right, Hakohen? But we need to follow the Torah.
Well,
now,
the Torah commands you.
One caveat I might add. I'm not saying traditions are bad. I have traditions for holidays to eat cheesecake on our festival days.
Right.
That's a tradition.
But that doesn't counteract the Torah in anything.
Right.
Because the Torah doesn't tell you what to cook.
Right.
If you're an Ashkenazi Jew, you're gonna cook your European food.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're a Middle Eastern Jew, you're gonna cook your Middle Eastern food.
Spicy food. That's what it's gonna be.
That doesn't correlate, or that doesn't offend Torah laws.
Right. But what I see, Hakohen, here, especially here in North America, I can speak for North America because I'm here, is what I see is they have elevated the customs and traditions above the Torah.
Yeah.
And Torah's made low, but yet custom and traditions made high.
Many families today are at war with each other over which commandments to follow.
Yeah.
Because maybe the husband wants to do one thing, the wife wants to do another. The wife wants to do one thing, the husband wants to do another.
Right.
Who is right?
Well, Torah tells us when there's a controversy, where do you go?
Right.
You go to the Kohanim.
Right.
You have to go to the Kohanim.
So we have, this is God's voice. This
Indeed.
is not Rabbi Kefa or Rabbi Simon's voice.
Right.
So we really must go back. We really must go back to the Torah and listen to the voice that Yahweh has put in there. We must go back. It is our prerogative. It is our right. And then when we'll find rest for our souls. Because I want to read one thing. This commandment was given to me many years ago by the God of Israel when I was trying to get direction from Him. He gave me this commandment, and I just love this verse. It's always stuck with me throughout my sojourn, throughout my life. I've always gone back to this verse every time, I want to re-examine myself. I go back to this verse, and it says as follows in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 6, verse 16. Thus says Yahweh, stand in the ways and look intently and make inquiry for the ancient paths, where the good way is, and walk in it, then you will find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk in it. I have a testimony that many years ago, 19 years ago, Yahweh, the God of Israel, came to me in a bank and told me to follow Him. And when I did follow Him, that's the verse that was given to me. And I said, where is the truth? And he said, look at Moses. And when I looked at Moses, of course, Moses is the Torah. I'd never seen the Torah in my life. So when I got hold of a Bible and I read Moses, and then this verse was given to me. Look in the ancient paths of the Torah. And that is where the rest for my soul was. And I can certainly attest to you after 19 years of my service to the God of Israel, that your rest for your souls is also in the Torah. To look in the ancient paths intently. Not just look, seek, and follow those ancient paths. Forget about these modernisms or what happened in the Second Temple before the destruction, how the rabbis brought new commandments and tradition.
Right.
Forget it.
Let's go back to Moses.
It's all garbage.
Let's go back to Moses.
They are not commandments that are given to us to follow. They're not for the house of Israel. And if the nations want to practice those, let them practice it, not for us. And I would encourage any of our people, House of Israel, anywhere, whichever country you live in, is to drop all these so-called traditions that don't add to your salvation. They actually are putting you in bondage and slavery.
Indeed.
They're not freeing you. So that's what I would encourage everyone listening to rethink and go back to the Torah. Hear the voice of the God of Israel.
Well, you heard it from the Kohen, Rabbi Simon Altaf, the Kohen in the gate, modern day times for 17 going forward. Because you must understand, now we have planes, trains, and automobiles. We need decrees that's going to help us be in right standing with the God of Israel. And who only can do that but a Kohen can line us up properly what we need to do to get our houses in order and to clean up. So I give thanks to the God of Israel for the Kohen in the gate. I give thanks for this great festival that we're involved in right now in Sukkot, and would say Shabbat Shalom to all of you as well. Yeah. Again, this is Rabbi Simon Altaf, and I'm Rabbi Kefa, and have a happy festival.
Yeah. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.